Hello, welcome back to another video, another update on the Aries North Node. I am Carly, this is Owning Authenticity, and in this video, we are specifically talking about two concepts. Number one, rejection. Number two, opinions. Okay, these are the two things that feel like the lesson plan of what my consciousness is truly working its way through is reprogramming my relationship with rejection and opinion, and building these two things into the infrastructure of my life in a way that lets me continue being my most radiant, beautiful flower of a self, okay? Like that quote that's like, flowers don't look at the flower next to them, they just bloom, they just do their thing. And as humans, I think, I probably shouldn't even talk about humans. I can talk about myself, which is, for me, I find it difficult to not be curious, to not want to know how the other ones are seeing it, because I mean, we can tell all of the stories we want, but I tend to be very open to the input of other people, mostly because of a genuine curiosity. I truly believe that, and backed up with a minor objective. The secondary objective is accuracy and the highest good of the all, the quality of the idea itself, beyond ego attachment. I want the work to be as good as it can be. So that drives me to open up for other people reflecting my work back to me, so that I can get a better look at it and see what else do I want to add to it, or what do I want to say differently, or whatever. And the thing about it is everything that they reflect, anybody else outside of us, anything that they're going to reflect to us, whether it's about our work or our personality or our behavior, or there's lots of different reasons people choose to reflect things to us. And sometimes we even ask them to reflect things to us. And we have many reasons for wanting that reflection, right? I believe genuinely that we are wired for connection, and it only makes sense that in a human 3D physical vessel, there is this wanting to connect. There is this this hunger for connection that unless you feed it, it is not satisfied, and it is a haunting hunger for connection. It feels like starvation of the soul, loneliness, So we reach out, we want to connect, we want to feed that hunger inside of ourselves. And I want to say just a little bit about that. As far as these last couple of years on my journey, I feel one of the coolest things that I have been able to kind of crack the code on is turning that hunger for connection towards myself, towards what is possible through my vessel, meaning through the root of my soul, your unconscious brain, however you want to think about it. We each have a connection straight to source energy, and we bring through as much as we're able to bring through in whatever moment, and it's all exactly the way that it's meant to be for the highest good of the all. And so to set this up, as far as kind of grounding it into what I experienced and what I want to say about rejection as an opinion, and kind of where to put that then in your consciousness, as far as how to let it be, how to let rejection exist, because it does. It's part of it. It's part of being physical. It's part of diversity. I mean, and there are definitely opinions about like what are respectful ways to be inclusive of diversity, but like again, all of that is only your own opinion, right? Like in a land of free will, like the earth is, like we do not get to step in on the sovereignty of another person and tell them anything about how to live their life. We don't get to do that. And that is why, like, these last couple years, like, figuring out how to, like, feed my hunger for connection by connecting, like, with my spiritual support, with the God of my understanding, with my ancestors who came before and paved this path so that I could be here doing what I'm doing. Like, everything that is there for me in non-physical, tuning into that and connecting into that and watching how truly, like, how fed my hunger for connection really is, and how self-sufficient my systems currently are, and to the point where I have made my way in my contemplation towards this place of like the downsides of hyper independence, you know, like the downsides of like truly not needing other people. And that's what I'm describing. I'm like, to connect, to like feed that hunger that we all have, where we're all wired for connection. It's like, I'm proposing the theory. I'm like in the final stages of like confirming this theory in my own life through my own life experience, that like we can feed that hunger spiritually. We can like truly feed that hunger by tapping into our soul and our full self, our higher self, the energy that we really are in a limitless way. And truly, one of the most beautiful pieces of a human existence is what you do with the limitations that are here. Because limitation is universal, is as far as like the 3D realm goes. It's like one of the guarantees, like the guarantee that you have free will and you have limitation. Like those two things are both true all at the same time. Like that's kind of the beauty of this realm. And what do you do with it? You know, like, do you turn it into the villain of your existence, or do you decorate it and like paint it up and, you know, use it as a character in this fantasy fiction, you know, novel that you create? Like, I mean, what do you do with it? What do you do with the limitations placed upon you? This is the question of the 3D. And this is like the ultimate masterpiece of like what each of us is doing in our authenticity. It's like, right, like you have limitations. Like, okay, like somebody rejected you, the world rejects you, your culture rejects you. Like, dude, like we get rejected like on a myriad of levels. And especially when you are one of the ones who is here to ground in the future, like to bring the future to life, to be one of the ones who is like ahead of your time. You know, nobody's ahead of their time, but some of us came to create a path that truly does not have very many people willing to walk on it yet. But nobody will ever be willing to walk on it if there aren't some courageous ones who are willing to go out in front and be vulnerable and be pioneering and be a little bit risk-taking, as far as like you don't have the security of knowing that a lot of people have done that before and they all were fine. You know, no, like anybody who's ever tried to do that, like you think about Christopher Columbus, like anybody who had ever tried to like go find the new world, like they didn't come back. Like they didn't come back. They were just gone. And so we don't know what happens when you go out in search of the new world. We don't know, because nobody has ever lived to come back and tell us about it. You know, like, so somebody has to be willing to take the risk. And that's all rejection is like, it's a risk to your ego. Okay. Like when you open yourself up to the opinions of other people, it's very natural that your ego is not going to like every single opinion that every single person has. Like, right, I love the quote that's like, stop trying to get everybody to like you. You don't even like everybody. Like, There's plenty of people you don't like. Like, doesn't it make sense that you're gonna be one of the ones that somebody doesn't like? Like, dude, rejection says more about the rejecter than it does about the rejected. Rejection says more about the rejecter than it does about the rejected. And that truth is in the book Rejection Proof, which I'm pretty sure ended up on the still image of this video. And highly recommend. And there's a reason I'm putting this conversation under the umbrella of the Aries North Node, Libra South Node, because Libra South Node is where we are hyper dependent on relationship. We're hyper dependent on our connections with other people. Specifically, like Libra energy, as an archetype, represents the other in our consciousness. Meaning, like, even when other people aren't physically around, they're not physically present, our Libra energy kind of keeps them with us like all the time. And that can be like a specific person. I think mostly I would say like our Libra energy kind of keeps with us like our specific people that we truly care about, like what they think of us. And then we also have like our Gemini energy and our Aquarius energy, those fellow air signs that are getting that trine from the Libra South Node. So like any Gemini energy, any Aquarius energy, you're getting a South Node trine to any of those placements where it's like Gemini energy will kind of keep our community, keep our like our family of origin, our neighborhood, our immediate environment that we exist in real life. It's like our Gemini energy keeps the spirit of that with us even when we are not out physically present in that place. Libra energy keeps our relationships with us. Aquarius energy keeps culture with us. Like all of these air elements, it's like that is the information that we have floating in our consciousness that we are allowing to influence and program our behavior. And so the more we expose ourselves to culture, the more we expose ourselves to those close relationships, the more we expose ourselves to like this community of people that has this like status quo way of being, it's just natural that we be programmed. And like rejection is part of this. Rejection, approval, it's like on that same spectrum. And like all of this air energy is like wanting approval. It's wanting like a homeostasis within the group, within the collective. It's a balancing, harmonizing element that lets us connect with other people in a way where we can feel totally different. We can have completely different ideas about things, philosophies about things, but we can still be together. Like that is truly kind of the best case scenario of air energy. Like the highest frequency is that you use it to build a bridge towards people who you don't actually share space with. So again, I think this is a beautiful conversation for the Aries North Node, where Aries archetype is wanting us to find that ember of self, find the spark that brought your life to life, like the spark of beingness that you are, what you are, like in a very natural sense of like, you know, again, the flower does not look at the flower next to it and like be like, oh, I like the way you did that, I'm gonna do that too. No, it just blooms. It just is like, I'm red and I have these streaks and my petals are this size and deal with it. Like this, I only last for 2 days, so what? I'm beautiful. Like it just is. Okay, so like our Aries energy, the part of us, the part of our beingness that just is. Okay, like that is that Aries North Node's burning desire, is that aspect of your beingness be excavated and unfolded and allowed room to grow. And that I think is a great place to like, okay, so tell the story of like what brought all of this to me. Like the book Rejection Proof has been a godsend. Like I said, like it's been just right on time for me personally. Many happy tears crying out of this book of like, this feels so good to understand it like this. Okay, so like, dude, highly recommend. Can't recommend it enough. But why was I hungry for a book about rejection? And the truth is, I didn't really go looking for a book about rejection, but it was mentioned as like they pulled a story out of it and like referenced the book in a video I was watching about not giving a fuck. So I love Mark Manson. Highly recommend his channel. You got to be willing to, I don't know. I guess I don't really know how I would describe his style, but something about it really works for me. And he is the author of The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, which I read many years ago. I should probably reread it. It'd be a good time. Probably goes along really well with this Aries North Node transit of like, basically what he's saying is like, try less hard as far as how you want other people to view you or feel about you. Like that's really not what's in our control. And most people aren't even paying as much attention to you as you really think that they are anyway. So like, just be yourself, okay? Like just do what works for you. Just, give fewer fucks. Take up more space, not less. That was a video that came through here very recently. And at this time that I recorded that one and this one, it's Sagittarius season. So like the sun is spending 30 days moving through Sagittarius season, which means that it's making this trine to the North Node, this like supportive aspect where the energy of the sun, the center of our beingness, the center of our personal universe inside of ourselves, is highlighting our Sagittarius energy. And that center of our identity being in Sagittarius is then funneling power and permission and energy and support into that Aries North Node to, again, like, what is real? What is your true nature? What is your isness? Right? Like Aries is that I am frequency. And so there's like a, sometimes called impulsiveness, but I think what it is like that pure I am frequency. It's like basically instincts, like what is your natural instinct? And that pure I am frequency, I think, is really heightened when we have all of this fire energy supporting the Aries North Node at the same time. And what happened was in this like 2-day period, I like literally 47 hours. Like I got the idea to write a book about this thing, like the concept, and that it was an ebook, that I would just make it as small as I needed to make it fun to write, basically, like how I do everything in my life, like whatever you need to do to make it fun, that's what we're gonna do. And so it actually was really interesting because I was like, I need to wait till I'm a little bit more cleared up in my schedule to like really devote some time to that. And there was something in my consciousness that was like really working for me that was like, that's bullshit, right? That feeling is like your ego trying to keep you small. And dude, like just write the part that is fun to write in this moment and then be done. Like you don't have to do anything more than what you're ready to do right now. So like just open a Word document. I hadn't even started anything. I just like get this idea and then instantly I'm trying to talk myself out of it. And I didn't. I opened a Word document and I kind of wrote down like a header and started writing a little paragraph, and then I started this chapter and like started writing this paragraph, and before I knew it, it had been like 4 hours and I had been sitting there just dumping things in the Word document for 4 hours, bouncing all over the place, like, again, whatever was fun. And after that, I was really hungry. So I ate and then I took a nap. And when I woke up from the nap, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so ready to write the next chapter. And so I would like write for another few more hours. And this went on for like a 2-day marathon of like, that's really all I did other than eat and sleep. I wrote in this Word document. And by the end of it, like by the end of that time, like the realness, the authenticity of it, the effortlessness of it, of like, this is just my beingness. This is just like what flowed out of me naturally. Like this isn't, it's not contrived whatsoever. It's not calculated whatsoever. It's just authentic. And I felt a sense of pride in finishing the draft that is hard to explain, other than like when you contrast it with when the idea first occurred to me, my first instinct was to like talk myself out of it and like, oh, I don't have enough time for that right now. And to like rise above that, like step above that, like self-limiting impulse to like give myself the space to be, and then to like take up that space for like hours and hours and hours a day for 2 days. It's like, that's 2 days of my life that like there was nothing else in the world that I would rather be doing. Okay. So like that was where the ebook draft came from. And I do tell that long version because A, I love long versions, and B, it sets up the important point, and like where we eventually can situate rejection and opinion is like, what about your opinion? What about like the part of the story where there was nowhere else I would have rather been? You know, like as far as my best idea about how to spend my life right now, for those 2 days writing this ebook, it was like that was the best idea I had. My opinion was that that was the right thing to do for those 2 days. And then my opinion was that it was the right thing to like kind of open it up in a safe place, a place with safety, I felt, where I could get some reflections, because I knew that, again, like I want to see like, what does this move? Like it was so effortless. It was so effortless. And I was like, can it be this easy? You know, like, can writing an ebook be this easy that like in 47 hours, like here it is. And then it just exists for the rest of time. Like really, can it be that easy? Right. And I think a big thing that I've learned out of this is like, we really only know if it can be that easy if we're willing to roll the dice and be like, okay, I'm gonna get a review after I've put 47 hours worth of effort into it. I'm gonna get some reviews. I'm gonna get some comments and see what do they say, you know, like what are their opinions of this thing that fell out of me, right? In such an effortless and fun and nowhere else I'd rather be in the entire world kind of way. Like, what's the consensus? And so I had 4 people who like volunteered, who emailed me and were willing to read the book and give me some feedback. 3 of them actually did and like sent it back. And so like, again, I'm like, that's great. 3 of them. Okay. So the long story short, I mean, there are times where the long story is just barely worth it, but like basically the first person who responded was the last person to send their feedback. And in the time between the first person responding and the first person sending their feedback, like right at the end, 2 other people like responded and then like sent feedback like immediately right away. And so those 2 that sent their feedback first, and so quickly, they had like, we'll call theirs like experience A of my ebook. They had experience A, and the other person, the first person to respond, the last person to send feedback, they had experience B. Okay. And like basically the spectrum was represented as, on one end, it was like almost angelic in the way that this was exactly what they needed to hear at this time. Amazing. And on the other end of the spectrum was, it's unreadable. Like, I didn't even read it. Here's some criticisms about why I couldn't read it. So, like, exactly what I needed at this time, couldn't even get through it. Couldn't even read it. So those are the opinions. Those are the variety of opinions. And that's one thing that I love about the chapter I was just listening to in Rejection Proof, is where he's talking about how rejection has a number. Like, if you want something to be accepted, you just need to ask enough people until somebody eventually says yes. Like, he told the story of J.K. Rowling and her Harry Potter book. In the first manuscript, she sent it to 12 publishers, and they all 12 turned her down. And then one of them gave the manuscript to like a granddaughter or something, a daughter or granddaughter, and the granddaughter like literally read the hundreds of pages of manuscript in one sitting. And a year later, that publisher greenlit Harry Potter, and that's where the Harry Potter series came from. But the first draft of Harry Potter got rejected a lot. And then it went on to sell 100 million copies. So what is rejection? It's an opinion. It's one person's opinion. And that's where, you know, again, the wisdom that like the rejection says more about the rejector than the rejected is important to have in that situation, in that relationship with rejection. It's important to have it in the right place where, you know, the other person's opinion is information for me to get to consider, you know. And there was actually a lot that I got to take away from this person's criticisms where, you know, essentially what it was like, this is an ebook. It's very short and to the point, and they critiqued it like they wanted it to be like a fully flushed out, in-depth, like written out, like every single thought, like a thought trail that you can just nibble, bite. And honestly, in my mind as I was writing it, and the part that really let me open the Word document in the first place was how, like, it's a book about my yearly mantra practice, and I don't see myself stopping that ever. I see like every single year, I'm going to pick a new mantra every single year. The last couple months of the year, I go through this process of like, you know, what am I going to ask the universe to deliver to me this year? And the increasing power and joy and fulfillment and satisfaction within that process, it led me to, again, like dump out this ebook. And so the thought was, next year or 5 years from now or whenever it's fun, if I want to, I can take this short and to the point version and I can do another pass through and I can tell even more of the story. But, you know, at a certain point, it would take thousands and thousands and thousands of pages to properly convey the experience of what I have lived through and the beauty and magic of what I have seen from practicing with a yearly mantra. And the simple truth was that like my personal values of putting tools, valuable tools, into the hands of as many people as possible, it let me have that awareness that like this is not a perfect ebook. This is not a comprehensive guide to the process. It's not even a comprehensive telling of your own story of the process. That's not what this is. This is a finished product that can be in the hands of people right now. Right now. And here's the deal. Here's the deal with that is like, as soon as you start showing your work to the world, right? I only showed it to 3 people so far. And there is a variety of opinions of this work. It varies, you know, like that's what I can say. Experience of the ebook varies from lovely to unreadable. And I don't take offense to that. You know, like, did I did I take offense? Technically, yes, my ego was not a fan of their review. Like, I had a lot to consider from that person's reflection of my work. On that note, I'm actually going to pop in here real quick to talk to you about my members only portal, which if you want to skip ahead, I'm going to list the timestamp on the screen. Go for it. This is a no pressure introduction as far as like, I need the space. I need this addition built onto the house for the activities that I want to do over there. And if you don't go over there, you're not going to miss anything. The content on the channel is still going to be what it was. If anything, I think it's going to be even enhanced by me giving myself this other space for practice, this other space for exploration, and really working through the unfinished, messy pieces that are how the sausage gets made. You know, like this video in particular, I recorded 2 members only videos, like 2 hours worth of processing through this stuff, that over the course of a couple days let me get the clarity that is being presented in this video. So that's really what the members only portal is, those members only videos. I mean, that's my practicing ground where I get to be as imperfect as I am, okay? And if you don't like imperfection, you're really not going to want to go in the members only portal. But if you're hungry for raw authenticity, I can't recommend it enough, okay? Like, I think you would really like it. And so that's something to consider if you want to hang out over there as well, or pop into that space as well. The other members only offer that I'm making is two Zoom sessions a month where I am available, and we have a sacred circle. And in those sacred circles, timed with the lunar cycle, so we'll do one at the new moon, we'll do one at the full moon, works out to 2 a month. Every month, about 2 months a year, there will be 3 a month, but that's the lunar cycle. So doing those Zooms, and as a soft place to be seen and heard and witnessed and held and encouraged. Okay, so like that's what we're doing in the Zooms, is a live version of empowering the individual to stand in their sovereignty and to celebrate along with you as you're able to make strides in doing that. So that is a slightly higher paid experience, just because that is a place where you gotta want to be there. Like you need to have the intention that like, I'm showing up to be held in safety, and I'm showing up to want to offer safety to other people. I'm showing up to want to help witness other people just as I plan to be witnessed in myself, right? So I'm looking for intentional use of these spaces, and that is giving me personally the level of safety that I need to really stretch into my fullest expression of authenticity. So again, if that sounds interesting to you and you're wanting to see behind the scenes at how this sausage gets made, I highly recommend click join below the video. The membership offer is there. It's charged on a monthly basis. You cancel anytime you want. And now back to the video. Well, this was a note from my higher self or my spiritual support this morning, where they said, like, when you meet the end of someone else's compassion for you, that's when you get to see the strength of your own. Okay? So when somebody else rejects you, when somebody else says like, no, no, this is not good. This is not good. And you need to ask yourself if you should even be doing this, because this is not good. Okay? Like when somebody has that opinion about what it is that you're doing, it is my belief that that is where you will get to see the strength of your own self-belief, right? Like when somebody else doesn't believe in you, when somebody else chooses to reject the work that you're trying to put out into the world, does it say, you know, things about them, or is it a reflection of your merit? And that is up to each of us individually. That is a never-ending process, I think, of building our relationship with rejection, building our relationship with other people's opinions and letting them exist, knowing that they exist. We're not trying to shut them down. We're not trying to tell them they're wrong. They're not wrong. In this person's opinion, it was unreadable. What does that mean? You know, like what does that mean? What does it mean? Does it mean that I'm a horrible writer and my writing is unreadable? No. It means that she doesn't like to read it. You know, she doesn't like my writing style, and that's okay, isn't it? Isn't it okay that she doesn't like it? That, there's not anything in there for her right now. That's what I take it to mean, as far as like the people who said that it was amazing. They also said, like, this is exactly what I needed to hear at this time. This was such a good reminder for this time, blah, 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 for these reasons. Like, this is what this sparked in me. This is what it let me see within myself. This is what, like, they were ready. There were trigger after trigger after trigger, activation after activation after activation. Like, them reading through my story was a transformational experience for them. And one person couldn't read it, and like, I personally am, like, couldn't be more grateful for how that whole experience played itself out, as far as like, getting to see and feel the range of, like, the diversity of the opinions of people interacting with my work. And like, I've gone through quite a bit of that on my videos, like people who tell me like I shouldn't be doing what I'm doing, or you can't do that, or you don't know, or you don't blah blah. Like, I mean, people have opinions. Again, that's where, like, there's nothing we can do about that. Okay. And like, railing against their opinion and trying to change their opinion, I just, like, that is just the world's biggest waste of time. As far as like, it was quite something how much my ego wanted to take their review point by point and explain to them why the unreadable part, like, was them missing what was there. Like, you're just not seeing it. You're just not seeing the value in the picture. And I want to explain to you why there's value in the picture. And every time my mind, like, wanted to go towards that of like, get out the email and like start telling them, every time I wanted to get into a battle of opinions over why my opinion and their opinion, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, number one, there was nowhere else in the world I would have rather been. So was the time wasted? Like, has anything at all, like, criticism worthy happened? No, I was in my pure I am consciousness for like 2 straight days. Okay. So like, I've already won. Now, if this person has an opinion about me, or if they don't want to interact with me anymore, or if they think other people aren't going to want to interact with me anymore when they see this, like, again, I'm like, I have enough of a relationship with divine protection that plays itself into this contemplation as well, as far as like rejection and people's opinions. And like, I think there was divine protection at play with this person saying that my book was unreadable, where they were being protected from me, as far as like, they couldn't comprehend and digest like what I had been laying out there, and that was protecting them. They were not meant to receive the information in that document. Okay. Like, clearly they couldn't take it in. They weren't meant to. They weren't meant to receive it. Okay. And some people were. Some people, I mean, one of them said she read it in 30 minutes. It's 46 pages. Like, that's fast. Like, like, just the deliciousness with which it was absorbed, as far as like, it packed a punch like that. Like, and the thing I want to say about like all of this that I have really seen is like, it feels so good to get praise. I think that's very normal and natural, that like, when people love us or, what we made or whatever, like, that it's like a satisfying experience to receive praise. But as much as the praise means, then so does the criticism. Like, those two things are equal. It's like all just opinion. So either opinion matters in your process or it doesn't. And the thing about it is like, I've seen that like the proper place for opinion in this particular situation is to show me that people's opinion is way more a reflection of them than it is of what I made, you know? And here's the extra thing is like, what I made is not me. It's barely even an extension of me, right? Like, it's 46 pages to discuss years, almost a decade of my life. Like, it's short and to the point. The number of things that are left out way exceeds the number of things that are included. Like, it's not meant to be comprehensive. That's not the point. That's what I made, was something that would be finished. That's the art, is that I finished it. And the other art is that I had the courage to put it out there. You know what I mean? Like, I had the authenticity to make it, and I had the authenticity to put it out there. So that's what I'm doing, is creating for the fun of getting to create, and sharing it for the fun of getting to share it, and metabolizing the reflections that come back to it as information for me to get to consider for my process. You know, I learned a lot from being rejected. It also led me to that video about giving less fucks, which led me to the book called Rejection Proof, which has been a gigantic emotional release these last few days as I've been listening to it. So, I mean, there is no such thing as an all bad experience. There's no such thing as something that is only bad. There is good in all bad. There is bad in all good. That is the beauty of the 3D. And it took me a minute, right, to like kind of soothe my ego and like solidify my relationship with rejection and other people's opinions. But that's what happened, is that I got to solidify my relationship with rejection and other people's opinions. And I think that lesson needed to play out. And so again, publishing the ebook, it's just like not even the point. Like, being able to show it to the world and learn the lesson that you can show literally the exact same document to 3 different people, and some will love it and some will hate it. And that's just the world, you know, like, that's just how it works. And so, you know, are we going to stop ourselves from sharing ourselves because some people aren't going to like it? That is basically the whole point of this channel. And it feels very Aries North Node to really lean into shedding my old relationship with rejection and letting it hold me back. And mostly my self-rejection, right? Like, mostly that little instinct at the very beginning when I get the idea that I want to do this, I want to express this. And it's like, you don't have time for that right now. You don't have, I mean, as it turns out, I had all the time I needed. I carved it out, right? If you want to, that really happens. But like, the urge to limit myself, the urge to reject my own creative impulse, that is truly what needed to open up. And then in having what I created rejected by the outside world, it's like it got to open up again into like truly like motivations checkpoint. Like, why are you doing this? Because if you're doing it for the praise, the rejection will tear you apart. But if you're doing it because, like, okay, I'm going to end on this note because I freaking love it. It's like really in my consciousness right now, which is, dude, if you lose at a pie eating contest, you didn't lose because you got to eat pie. You know, like, if your ebook gets rejected, but you wrote it out of fun and play and pleasure, then does it really matter? Like, you still got to eat pie. So, dude, you're good to go. Thank you so much for listening. I would love to hear your thoughts down below, your opinions down below on what did this stir inside of you? Like, right? Show us a little bit of yourselves. Go for it. Take a risk. Thank you so much for joining me. It has truly been my pleasure. Until next time, I hope you will take such good care of the precious one that is you. I hope you are trusting your I am frequency. And so will I.